Да, уважаемые участники, мы начинаем сессию, посвященную тематике «Свободные экономические зоны и индустриальные парки. Новые возможности».
New opportunities for international industrial cooperation. It's once again my pleasure to greet you here at Kazan Forum. Thanks to everyone who joined us in person, but we have an online audience as well. We're waiting for two more speakers. They're joining us in a moment, but we'll start. First and foremost, it's my pleasure to introduce our experts and speakers. First, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation, Mr. Osmakov. He is going to join us shortly. We also have Deputy Minister of Economy of United Arab Emirates, His Excellency Abdullah Al Saleh. He is also going to join us shortly. Mr. Achkushov, Director of Department of International Cooperation under the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. His department is taking care of international cooperation. We also have Mr. Gusin with us, Executive Director of the Business Council of Russia and United Arab Emirates. We have people from Azerbaijan with us, Chairman of the Agency for Development of Economic Zones, Mr. Adegezalov Seymur Elmir Ogli, and also we have General Director of the Northern Park of Development, Mr. Nizavskih, and First Deputy General Director of company Himgrad, Mr. Grushin. We're also Senior Vice President of Novicom Bank, Madam Lavrentieva, and a group of experts, including the head and the general director of the Special Economic Zone Algan, Artyom Penzin, and some other people who lead industrial parks and economic zones in this country. We also have the trade representatives of Russia in the Republic of Azerbaijan. I will kick off our discussion. It's quite natural that this agenda is discussed at Kazan Forum. It is not the first session on industrial parks. In Russia, this agenda is developing very rapidly in this country. We've scored significant results which are noticeable, apparent, not only for Russia but also for our foreign partners. In Russia today, we've created over 400 industrial parks and special economic zones of different types, both public and private, and all of them are in significant demand, not only in Russia but also abroad. For a long time, we wanted to engage foreign investors. Up to 50% of investment were made by foreign companies. However, in recent years, the international situation has changed, and the role of Russia in international dialogue has been also changing. At our local parks, there is a major change in the geography of foreign investors. There is, let's say, a turn towards east. We have now more active relations with Arab countries. You can see it if you look at the list of our speakers, as well as if you look at the list of investors in our industrial parks. Russian business has also changed. Quite recently, we witnessed an apparent demand and trend for localization of some of our production abroad. Therefore, the issue of international cooperation in the area of special economic zones is becoming increasingly critical for us. Experience of Russian companies is in demand. We have a variety of examples where Russian managing companies are engaged in joint projects abroad. We'll mention some of these projects today. Why does it happen? It's pretty logical. This year, we decided to make a calculation, to make an estimate of how many managing companies have experience in excess of 10 years. For us, it's an important indicator. The life cycle of creation of an industrial park or a special economic zone is about 7 years. We think it would be reasonable to understand how many companies we have which which at least have completed one successful project. And now in our estimate there are 57 managing companies which have over 10 years of practical experience, some of them even 20 years. Many of these companies are managing not a single park, but a network of parks with the so-called network managing companies, which are present in 3 or 4 and there are more regions of Russia. And there are some examples where they start new parks in other countries. We'll come back to this issue on many occasions today. Another important trend is partnership of Russian managing companies with foreign companies with a view to create joint parks. Why are we doing it? We want Russian companies to be exposed to international experience and to be able to navigate among different parks, to select and to adopt a site relying on technical criteria is not, by no means, is not simple. For this reason, there is an initiative which was for the first time announced by Mr. Smakov, our first deputy minister, in autumn, whereby we expect to create an international alliance of industrial economic zones. We already started to cooperate with our friends in Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan. This is by no means an exhaustive list. And in all occasions, it's important for sharing experience, and it is important to give an opportunity for investors to compare similar sites in Russia and other countries. What is the cost of connection, for example? What is the cost of electric power connection? Such seamless navigation for an investor may be provided by a new international institution. And this is the International Alliance of Industrial Parks, which include 5 countries: Kazakhstan, Russia, Belarus, Pakistan. Pakistan is represented by a leading economic zone of Pakistan. There are 6 or 7 more countries which actively negotiate the possibility of joining this alliance. I expect this will be a site or a forum convenient for an ongoing dialogue on this agenda. Now we're engaged in this dialogue at this excellent Kazan forum, and now I round up my introduction and I would like to give floor to our participants. It would be logical to invite the representative of the Ministry of Trade and Commerce of Russia to discuss the strategic objectives of the Russian Federation in cooperation in the area of industrial parks. Roman Andreevich, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Denis, dear colleagues. I will just in a nutshell highlight those tasks and approaches of the Russian Federation while developing the pertinent infrastructure abroad. And in the course of our discussion, we would probably find some common ground and get focused on some pivotal ones. The Russian government's fully supports the cross-border projects in terms of their investments, and this is just a new mechanism, a new instrument. And the Russian business, of course, was placed at the foreign venues, and they opened some production lines and other businesses, but from the part of the Russian Federation, such support, especially financial support, never occurred. As in the past, the idea behind was to enhance the production territories of the Russian Federation and have their own potential. But today, the strategy has been changed. It is given a new global impetus, and we're going to deliver goods at the external market under the instruction of President Putin. And under the Decree 39, dated the 7th of May, by 2/3, the energy and raw materials export should be enhanced by 2030. And it's also worthy to mention that we have to operate at the friendly countries' markets and have the supply chain, have the consistent logistics, so that to enhance the investment relations and trade relations. And within the framework of the new cycle, and this is what we're supposed to have till 2030. So we decided to put forth the standalone federal project aimed at the foreign investments. And thus we may accumulate those initiatives and deliver the Russian goods on a permanent basis to these markets. And new transport logistic corridors will be shaped up, and the new routes would be found and mastered, especially to sub-regions. And that's how we see the trend for the development of the trade export. And we view the Latin American countries, African countries, and the key role is played by the Middle East and the Central Asia, and of course Asia and the Pacific. And that is the new contour for us for our permanent services and the goods delivery. And the anchor type instrument vis-a-vis foreign infrastructure development is the instrument, is the option to create the industrial parks and port infrastructure. Why do we need it? We need to have consistent cargo flows, and we discussed this issue with Mr. Al-Saleh. And in order to be successful at the Arab Emirates market, and we discussed our bilateral trade relations, the company has to have not only the knowledge of English, of foreign languages and Arabic, and they have to know the infrastructure and to operate with counter-agents, understand the structure of shipments, and also have an understanding of a culture you do operate. And for that particular purpose, infrastructural development is necessitated. Transport logistics centers for the unlimited number of companies will allow us to organize on a permanent basis the service for goods delivery, and also have a chance to transship the products from warehouses to the end user. And this particular initiative will allow us to become a part of the cooperation chain present at the market, and it will allow us to expand the export into third countries and also ensure the import of the most vital type of products for the end user. And it will be not worthwhile to bring the product to Russia and then re-channel it to the end user. It's better to do it on a direct basis. So we need some professional competences while interacting with the market and while interacting with the lawmakers of the pertinent country. And thus we need the special chain of supply plus competences. And Denis aptly mentioned it. These are the competences on managing economic zones, industrial parks, technoparks available in the Russian Federation. And wrapping up, let me mention that the structure of a project should look in the following way. First of all, the government support is to be provided. Special financial instruments are to be applied in order to set up the general infrastructure jointly with the investor. The professional managing company, Russian-based, is to be provided, and it will bring about the competences for the foreign-based counter-agents and who have a good reputation in cooperating with the residents of the Russian Federation and the Russian investors' availability. And the ready-made infrastructure should be available. Then the production lines are installed, plus all the preferences could be granted from the part of the local government in the friendly countries. I mean the special tax regime, some soft payments of rent, and also the ability to use the infrastructure. And such components are indispensable for us for the further development of marketing, promotion of our products for industrial and operational businesses to be installed, and we also have to improve our legal regulatory framework. Thank you so much, Roman Andreevich. And I would like to ask our colleagues from the Arab Emirates. We have activated the dialogue with them, and it's a very appealing venture for us. And over the past 10 years, the Arab Emirates showed a very, very strong leap in terms of special economic zones establishment. And they have a very, very good and advanced experience on that score. So I would like to pass the floor to the Deputy Minister of Economy, United Arab Emirates, and His Excellence Abdullah Al Saleh, and put a question. How can you characterize the special economic zone of Emirates, and how Russian business may take part in that business, and what preference would be provided to the Russian business, and what will be the takeaway of those projects? Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind attention. I'm going to speak Arabic. Emirates have achieved a great success over the past years in setting up of quite a number of free economic zones, trade economic zones, and we have more than 40 of them altogether. And these zones have become very successful in our country, in the foreign trade, and in the sphere of investments. Today in Dubai, such economic zones take care of 30% of the entire economic output of Emirates. And they are placed 17 in the in the global context, and we're placed third in product processing at the global level. And such achievements in our small country were achieved due to the wise policy of the country and the initiatives to establish specialized or free economic zones. And our foreign trade reached $1 trillion approximately. And this is a record. And 30% of this amount is the share of the free economic zone. So we have quite a number of Jebel Ali, GMCC, and it is related to the manufacturing of luxury goods like golden goods and also consumer goods like tea or coffee. And in Emirates, we have quite a group of similar districts and areas, and they are fully specialized. As to the internet coverage and other areas have industrial cluster, they have educational cluster, medical cluster, and also free economic zones are located in Dubai and ABGM, and there are other zones of that sort, and they are guided by the English law in all the measures and initiatives they undertake. As to the Russian companies which are interested in cooperation with us and which are ready to get an access to the global market, they consider our free economic zones as those very attractive ones in order to organize and develop their business in that particular zones and use them for warehousing and storaging their products or for other purposes. And the role of similar economic zones is very substantive. And there are quite a number of other opportunities provided to investors. And you may find 120 companies which were set up at the territory of free economic zones. And we also have a zone having a 100% foreign capital. I mean those companies which do exist in the free economic zones. And just recently, 49% of foreign participation was allowed in Emirates. But 3 years ago, the investor could own 100% of his capital at the territory of Arab Emirates. And we also have some other advantages which are real beneficial for investors. And some companies are tax exempt. But there are some taxes which you have to pay in Arab Emirates and in the other districts and areas of our region, but there are nevertheless some positive competition which does exist in these countries. But it's a good thing for us to have such competition, specifically vis-à-vis the availability for investors. And Emirates is connected with various zones of the world. And so consumer goods and their share is very high in these zones. And we also have some customs duty preferences, and investors do also enjoy this particular opportunity, and many are customs duty exempt upon delivery of their products. Now, further on, they are exported or purchased by other companies, and it becomes indispensable, and this is a great achievement of ours in terms of providing preferences. And so you see that the conditions are quite favorable for all the investors. And the digitalization process is a characteristic feature of these zones. And as to the financial settlements and other instruments and other types of services, they are also digitized. Funding of a number of companies presupposes some benefits and privileges, and they are provided by the Emirate banks. And investors do enjoy these benefits and advantages. There are quite a number of instruments used for the financial settlements. What about the quality of life? It's very high, and investors are provided to teach their children at school, enjoy medical services, transport and automobiles and various types of entertainment, housing, and everything is provided at a beneficial basis and for investors, and it's a very serious component part for the quality of life of investors. And there are quite a number of services provided to investors. The principle of one window, and the investor, in order to get a permission, does not have to go anywhere to administration, to offices. There is a special bureau, a designated one, supporting investors and rendering assistance to them. Many markets do not give an opportunity to attract workforce from abroad. But we are an open market of workforce, and any company operating at the territory of the Arab Emirates is eligible to hire a workforce from other countries which serve in this or that company. And the majority of free economic zones, so we have centers which do promote the development of innovations and research and other types of services provided to those who would like to be a part of this business. And over the whole year, various events are being organized, exhibitions, etc. Every day, some events take place which are attractive for investors and businessmen. And they are interested not in just visiting these exhibitions, but to take part in these exhibitions, showing their profile at the global market.
The government provides various types of support to investors. There are a variety of financial incentives. Recently, we've signed contracts in free economic zones with a variety of foreign companies. Any project launched in any economic zone may export goods to other countries. On top of that, there is a developed system of logistic services. Such a logistics network allows to combine the services provided by 5 freight transport companies which operate jointly with maritime transportation companies, and you can rely on air freight services, marine transport. Well, there are a variety of warehouses available to you. Thank you very much. Indeed, it's an unprecedented a range of measures to support foreign investment. We know about that, but we wanted to learn it from you directly. By your leave, I will ask you a question. The question, I think, is of interest to many potential investors. They will ask the methods you use to determine the origin of commodities. What does a business need so that the product produced in one of your special economic zones will carry a seal made in United Arab Emirates? Are there any special requirements? I mean that, like the volume of investment made in your country, or the degree of localization of production, so that that business has the status of a local or domestic producer in United Arab Emirates?
Any kind of goods in UAE unless these goods are classified under the United Nations as a special goods, and it requires special permission for that. Otherwise, there is no any restrictions for these products to enter. There is standards and classifications also for the quality assurance, and there is a list of standards that is usually it is complying with the international standards. Now, for if you want to import raw materials in mainland, there is no tariffs, custom tariffs on raw materials or any products that can be used for the processing or manufacturing. For free zones, regardless, is it raw materials or not raw materials, you can bring it in free zones and re-export it or process it and export it without any restrictions. Now, for within the free trade agreements that we have, we signed with India, with Singapore, with Indonesia, with Israel, with Turkey, with Colombia. Now, soon we will conclude with Chile, with Vietnam, and in the pipeline, many other countries. Russia will be one of the countries that we are in negotiation now. Hopefully soon we will conclude this negotiation. Within this agreements, any product can produce with added value, national added value, more than some products 35, some products 40%, and they will get the preferential access to the countries that we sign free trade agreements. So 40% to make sure that your product will reach bigger market without restrictions.
Thanks a lot. Да, ну, чтобы как-то перевести.
In order to turn this discussion to practical matters, I would like to ask Alexei Busev, who is not only the executive director of Russia UAE Business Council, but he also supervising some projects on the co-creation of industrial parks and creation of preferential treatment for foreign investors. Alexei, I'm giving you the floor. We expect a presentation for you, and it will be a logical follow-up of what we have just discussed. Good afternoon. Thanks to organizers. Thanks to Denis Vladimirovich. Thanks to our colleagues from Russia and the other countries who joined us today. I must say that our colleagues from United Arab Emirates are very active, and equally from the Russian side there is the same attitude. Potentially Russian businesses have increasing interest towards United Arab Emirates and other countries of the Gulf. If we look at the statistics, over 120 Russian companies started in UAE, and the quality of these companies, I've been there for nearly 15 years. I can compare the companies which go to United Arab Emirates with those which did it 15 years ago. I see that there is a change in quality. In particular, if we look at companies, Russian companies which tapped the Emirates market maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the quality is much cheaper, and the companies represent a whole range of industries: building, foodstuffs, developers, etc. As Mr. Al-Saleh has just said, a variety of companies display interest towards free economic zones, but I must say the changes which were made in the local legislation several years ago allow for any type of business to start a company not only in special economic zones but also on the mainland of United Arab Emirates with all the opportunities which possess the local companies. It is very important, Mr. Al-Saleh mentioned bilateral agreements, the so-called SEPA agreements, which Emirates have with other countries. In particular, a treaty with Colombia was made last week. The advantages for starting a company on the mainland is that the certificate of origin made in UAE is available for them, but only those the companies which are established on the mainland can benefit from all the bilateral agreements made by United Arab Emirates and other countries. The project of creation of Eurasian hub in United Arab Emirates emerged maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but a couple of years ago there was an idea put forth to create a single window service for Russian companies. After numerous requests made to the Russia's Emirates Business Council, which were received from numerous Russian companies which intend to start assembly production or engage in trade activities on the mainland. And as I said, 2 years ago, jointly with our colleagues from KIZAT, which is the largest industrial zone in United Arab Emirates and JCC countries as well, there was an idea to rally our efforts and using all financial and non-financial tools that may be proposed to us by our partners from Abu Dhabi ports. We now put forth the idea of the Eurasian industrial and commercial hub. The main objective was to create a site where Russian and Eurasian companies could start any production well, covering different sectors like oil and gas sector, pharmaceuticals, and construction materials, etc. It is important to emphasize that we need to harmonize standards. What we witness now in relations between UAE and Russia, like, for example, oil and gas standards, which allow Russian oil and gas equipment manufacturers for the first time to tap the UAE market, simplification of certification procedures for producers of halal foodstuffs, well, pushes Russian companies towards the UAE markets where favorable environment is now created. If we look at the idea of the hub, the platform which exists already in Kizat industrial zone, we've did all the paperwork last year. The process of obtaining approval for the tools that can be provided by our partners from Abu Dhabi was completed. And at the end of the day, Russian companies now have an opportunity to start full cycle production, assembly production. The opportunity to localize production and obtaining certificates made in UAE, import of such products to Russia and other countries, and the other way around, the possibility of supplying foreign-made goods through the regional representative office. Another important thing, there is a possibility of making any financial settlements thanks to the, let's say, well-balanced view that the Emirates have on this issue. Russian companies can start accounts in Emirates, and logistics, given the development of the north-south channel, Kizat zone will be used by Russian companies. This place will be used as a hub for production and warehousing of their products. Some of the Russian companies start by opening warehouses, and which is followed by starting their own production lines. After our negotiations with the Abu Dhabi Ports Group, we received some discounts or preferences for Russian companies. In particular, the hub monitors those opportunities that are offered by the government, I mean government incentive programs, meaning subsidies which may be channeled towards manufacturing, well, in Eurasian hub, subsidies for electricity power, gas supplies, etc., are also available. There may be other types of incentives that we're going to discuss with our UAE colleagues. On top of the benefits that were mentioned today, in particular, the benefits related to trade under bilateral separate agreements and other agreements made by UAE and other countries. I give a list of discounts and other preferences that are available that for leasing land, for leasing production and warehousing facilities. From our side, we take care of all difficulties that Russian companies may face at the start of their project, like accounting support, audit support, etc. As you know, this year for the first time, 9% income tax will be paid in this country. A number of matters that are resolved jointly with our trade representative office and other entities. As I said, residents of this hub are not only Russian companies, but also companies from countries members of the Eurasian Union, plenty companies from Kyrgyzia, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan are interested in obtaining residence in our hub. I would like to thank our dear colleagues from the Ministry of Industry and Trade for their support. And it's my pleasure to inform you that starting from the next week, starting from Monday, those of our colleagues who will be in Moscow, from Monday till Thursday, we're going to launch a road show of our joint project with Kizat Group. You are invited. There will be a meeting where we'll be discuss this project in more detail. Thank you. Thank you, Denis. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you. There is a question for the audience. There is preferential treatment for starting their business, but are there any available in Emirates? Is it possible to lease an already existing facility? No, just so that we can start to operate starting from next month. Not only a structure, well, I'm talking about the available infrastructure. If you need a warehouse, it may be selected for you depending on the company's objectives. If there is a need to adjust some technical parameters, like to introduce an overhead crane or to increase the height of the ceiling, it may be done. In Kizat, on Kizat side, there are some other advantages. There is a special hostel for employees. There are some houses where you can place your employees. There are catering facilities and healthcare facilities. The environment very favorable. You can start your production practically immediately. There are greenfield projects. There are land plots with available communication lights. There are standalone warehousing facilities with air conditioning or without air conditioning, depending on the type of business the company intends to pursue in UAE. As the Business Council, we interact not only with the Kizat free zone, we deal with other free zones in Dubai, in Sharjah, Al Sahat. Each of the zones offers their own advantages and specifics. But for the time being, we are focusing on Abu Dhabi, since we believe there is a huge potential there. Among other things, thanks to the financial tools that are offered in Abu Dhabi. Thank you. If we want to start production on one of the sites, should we go to the Business Council or to the managing company of one of the sites? You should better apply to the Business Council, and will help you going forward. Thank you. Okay. Vasily Sergeyevich joined us. Now, our next speaker is from Azerbaijan. This is one of the countries with active cooperation with Russia. In particular, we plan to establish a joint industrial park. There is a contract made to this extent. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Chairman of the Board of the Agency for Development of Economic Zone of Azerbaijan Republic, Seymur Almiragli. The floor is yours. Would you describe your expectations from this joint project? Probably you will enter into detail of this agreement.
Thank you so much. Dear attendees to that forum, dear friends, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for the hospitality and the opportunity to have a say. And in the course of the official visit of the Republic of Azerbaijan, I would like to get to know the business community more closely. And let me just give you a report as to our activities. 12 industrial zones are present in Azerbaijan. More than $4 million were invested, and with more than 11,000 jobs. And the products manufactured at those sites are exported in more than 70 countries of the world. And I would like to underline the strategic partnership of Azerbaijan and Russia. And we have the relations of partnership. And we are developing in our relations in all the spheres, especially the economic one. We are cooperating very actively with various regions of Russia, with the Republic of Tatarstan in particular. And that testifies to the fact that we've just signed quite a number of documents with Vasily Azimovich. And also, I would like to highlight that various industrial parks of ours are attended by the companies of the Republic of Tatarstan at the Jumrai district, at the free economic zones, and some joint service center is operating, and our joint stock venture Kamaz and Ganjing's car factory are cooperating on that area. And I would like also to assess the contribution of the Russian entrepreneurs and investors onto that particular venture. And also Verfarm are taking part in the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. Also Pinoplex, thermal insulators are there, and also we may incentivize the Lada and Gazelle production there, and we cooperate with Solar's company. It's also our resident. Last May in Kazan, within the framework Russia Halal Expert, we signed the memorandum of cooperation of our agency with the industrial cluster of the Republic of Tatarstan. And as a result, here we've shown the availability of other documents on setting up the joint operators company. And it is going to operate at the Sumgait Industrial Park. And the specific zone will be allocated for that purpose within this park, and this company is going to function there. And this company is going to raise Russian funds first and foremost, and also Russian entrepreneurs will be invited to that site so that they take opportunity and use the infrastructure available. And also some the benefits will be provided as well. And in conclusion, I would like to add that we have multifaceted relations between Tatarstan and Azerbaijan within the framework of the Russian-Azerbaijan relations will further advance. And as we signed an agreement today, we are going to have very productive joint work, and many more other joint projects will emerge at the level of our bilateral cooperation. Thank you so much. Seymour, I know that you have a very tight schedule and you are supposed to go to your negotiations, so we will let you go. And good luck within the framework of your project implementation. And in a year or so, we're going to talk about the new project and on joint parks, and Russian residents will be located there. Vasily Sergeyevich, I would like to ask you. We've been visioning various countries. Already we know about the case in Arab Emirates, in Azerbaijan, and probably you will give some kind of a conclusion. I had a word of introduction, and of course I have to have a word of conclusion. Okay, we will proceed with our deliberations, and proceeding from the logic, so we have the Russian managing company, and these companies have industrial parks everywhere in Russia, and nowadays they would like to set forth the joint projects for the industrial infrastructure jointly with the foreign-based partners in other jurisdictions, and very actively classical industrial parks are incorporated onto that sphere, but other investors as well. Fininvest, for example, that's an investor of the warehousing, but already we have quite a number of project zones at the territory of this country. They are put together, and there's the logics under the forming of such logistic venues aimed at the development of new transport logistic corridors. And already we have identified this particular business area. So I would like to give the floor to Alexander Nizovsky. He is the general director for the company Northern Park of Development. This is a new venue. Could you please comment on your project? Dear guests, I would like to cordially thank the organizers of this event. And it's really a very, very beneficial event for us as a management company. And we would like to discuss the last trends within the sphere of international cooperation. Let me just, in a nutshell, give you some profile of my company and the pertinent strategic steps we are supposed to undertake. Our strategic group, Fininvest, is the largest one for multimodal containers and logistics centers at the territory of the Russian Federation. As of today, we've launched in Moscow and Moscow Oblast and Yekaterinburg and Novosibirsk quite a number of new venues that will be dealt Artyom, the dry port in the Far East. We have a very high level of technological processing techniques, and thus we will speed up the processing and the servicing of containers, and we also are using Trans-Siberian Railroad connecting the west and the east. And also we're supposed to construct more of such venues in the largest agglomeration of this country. Our group is one of the largest logistic operators of Russia. We have our own park of container, our own feeding containers, vessels, and we are aimed at the developing of our own infrastructure, and thus we are providing the high-class level services and satisfying the needs of this country and cross-border countries in providing the new logistic corridors. Infrastructural development is another pilot project of ours. We're going to set up the free economic zone of Novosibirsk, having the largest terminal in this country, with the potential of processing of freight for about 1 million tons per year. And the new economic zone will have its logistic core. And this particular approach matches with the new challenges and it has to be harmonized with the new technological and economic processes. It is very beneficial for the government. It is beneficial for us, and they get quite a number of unique advantages in terms of public preferential measures. And thus, we're supposed to get the comprehensive logistic services with due regard to the availability of a sole logistic operator. And we will be able to use the customs infrastructure on a full-fledged basis, as well as we're supposed to have the procedure for free processing and delivery and shipment of the ready-made goods, and get an access to international markets and at the local level. And in 2025, we're supposed to construct some new ventures as a part of our participation in the specific and the free economic zone. I think that the foreign investors may be invited to view our opportunities, and we have the very favorable strategic location, and Novosibirsk is close to Asian countries, to Asia and the Pacific and other regions. And we may also clear the administrative barriers and operational costs due to the preferential mode. And such concept allows to get focus on the business residents, and the managing company will be fully in charge of all the auxiliary issues. We speak with our partners the same business language. We may provide some flexible conditions, and the government fully supports our initiative. And that's a very good example for cooperation of the private companies and public companies. And the best aspects of every company are being incorporated. And other terminals of our network will be made operational quite soon. I would like to invite the international and the Russian-based partners for investment, for investing into our company. We're open to any ideas for interaction and partnership. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you so much. We are proceeding with our deliberations, and in Russia, we have quite a number of other projects, and the cooperation and development of industrial parks, specifically with Uzbekistan. And I think that Alexei Vladimirovich Grushnov, the Himgrad company head, will highlight their activities. They are pioneering companies, but those projects of theirs have been very successfully implemented. The geography of Himgrad is expanding on a gradual basis. And will you please specify your projects in other countries? And I'm not going to disclose your secret. Thank you, Denis. Thank you for the opportunity to have a say. And I would like to greet all the attendees to that session. But the idea of expert and the competences of managing companies were viewed by us several years ago in the course of our cooperation with the Turkish company and Göze company not far from Istanbul. And jointly with the Turkish companies, we decided to set up the free economic zone at the territory of Sviazhsk Multimodal Center. But the project never came true. The idea of the project never came true. But nevertheless, some industrial twin zones are being set up in various jurisdictions, and I saw them in Moldova at various stages. They also wanted to open up their own venues, and so this idea was suspended in the air. And due to the initiative of the Uzbek colleagues, we decided to opened some industrial parks in the Republic of Uzbekistan. The first one was opened in Cherchik, not so far from Tashkent, at the territory of the plant for alloys and fire-resistant materials. And in Jizak, another project was launched, Jizak Plasmas, plastic of Jizak. Why our Uzbek colleagues were interested in this particular project? First of all, our management company presupposes to operate at the brownfield. And also we were focused on Tasma, at the territory of Tasma, well known as the object of the Soviet Union. So some venues are functionally do not use them. And so we decided to develop them further. Why Uzbek colleagues were interested in that efforts? We offer the products to the international market. And there are quite a number of special economic zones in Azerbaijan and in Uzbekistan, and there are quite a number of services offered. And our model presupposes the availability of all the infrastructure, transport, communal engineering one, and we also mainly interact with the segment of SMEs. And so special economic zones really need the service and control and the quality. And as of today, the venues we had opened in Jizak and Cherchik are very successful. By the way, it doesn't have any vacant territories. Everything is packed. And our colleagues from Uzbekistan had to prepare all the buildings, reconstruct certain ones, and build a new. But we came across some barriers and challenges. And the management companies have to have a clear understanding as to how it works. The first block, the block of legal issues and legal regulatory framework. The Russian Federation and the Ministry for Industry and Trade have been real much focused on the new legislation, new standards and principles of work. We know 794 decree, and the countries we are dealing with are guided by the same principles as we do. Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and Uzbekistan have the same approach, which is perceived quite appropriately. And another issue is the organizational one. And we have to clearly understand what is the set of organizations incorporated into the project. But we really have to have those organizations at our disposal which are going to organize and implement these projects, having the functional zone of responsibility. The next block of issues are financial ones. We use the model for project funding, and the hard infrastructure is provided by the pertinent country. And that's what we have in the Republic of Uzbekistan. And Uzkimprom was fully in charge of construction and also engineering, and transport infrastructure was provided by them. But once the investor or a resident comes onto their territory, so they have everything available. But there are also Korean, Uzbek, and German companies, and the investor contributes onto the project per se once they step up onto this territory. Also, they identify the place of localization of the site, some also the energy resources and the point for input for enter. And some issues are to be discussed and harmonized right from the start, as one decision affects the other. And if we talk about Uzbekistan, so we have Kickmaster and Alabuga, the specific economic zone, and they have their projects in the Bukhara and Navai. And these are two more management companies. In the foreseeable future, a new agreement will be signed as to how to enhance the territory of the industrial park Cherchek. About 70 hectares we are supposed to have in the town of Doravshon. And this venue will be operational, though it's somehow far ahead of our core sites. The same is true of Drizak. But our colleagues from Azerbaijan have aptly mentioned that we've already signed an agreement on the special economic zone and the industrial park will be developed. And in a year's time, we will already open it up, and the new production lines will be available, having our Russian companies there. And the same is true of Tajikistan. And we are discussing an issue on the selection of a site, and we're discussing it with the Tajik party as to the conditions of joint effort. And this is one of our ideas, to have a project office for the Russian industrial companies and entrepreneurs. And thus, they may have a choice proceeding from the goal they are attaining and proceeding from the preferences. If in Uzbekistan we had the maximally beneficial conditions and we have very good tax preferences and other benefits. Thank you so much. And it's a good thing that the geography is expanding year over year. And this particular negotiations are provided at a level of other countries. We have the Nigishigol Taraibich. He is a representative in Turkey, from Turkey. And so we've been mastering the new economic zones in Turkey, and jointly with our colleagues from Himgrad, we negotiated upon this potential project. Sometimes we have to incorporate our own standards in the country having no legal regulatory framework, especially in Uzbekistan. And we started from the blank spot, and I think that our Uzbek colleagues will be appreciable of those efforts. Such countries as Turkey and Arab Emirates have a great expertise. They are far ahead of us, and we are boasting sometimes, but they are really more advanced, Turkey and Arab Emirates, and they have some kind of a parity start, and we will organize a new model for private investments. We may just only dream about it, but we'll see what comes out of it.
Let's proceed with our agenda. we had a review of our joint projects in other countries, maybe it should be appropriate to make a few brief comments from our expert. Let's ask the question to the managing director of the director of the managing company of Russia, Artyom. The floor is yours. What are your plans in other countries? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you, Denis, for inviting me to join this session. I listened to interest with two other speakers. Tatarstan and Himgrad are trailblazers in this respect. Indeed, Bashkortostan and Corporation for Development of the Republic of Bashkortostan is in active negotiation with the Republic of Tajikistan and with Uzbekistan. I would like to say that as of today, we've made significant progress. We are on a par, so to say. We're negotiating the Republic of Uzbekistan. We intend to localize their production in the special economic zone of Algar in Bashkortostan. Our partners are interested in the size of our market. Well, there are plenty of large-sized cities around this economic zone. We are providing a feasibility study for them. The preferential treatment and benefits are comparable. From their side, they selected a site for an industrial park where the development corporation will be entering as a co-managing company. For Tajikistan, we are in active negotiations. This year, our representatives made a visit on the ground, so to say, to Tajikistan. The Kargokhi Machine Sazi company. This company is a site of a former Tajikistan textile plant, but it needs significant reconstruction and maybe a review. Tajikistan side is doing that. They're drafting relevant documents and looking at the possibility of further use of this facility. As for the regulatory framework, neither of these two countries have a legal framework to separate industrial parks or economic zones from, to give them some tax benefits. Well, industrial parks in Russia are also not exempt. We don't have any preferential treatment. Till 2019, in the industrial park Ufimsky, we didn't have any preferential treatment for us. We at least asked to give some, let's say, friendlier property tax treatment for residents of the technical park. Well, now the decision is to provide them a 10 years vacation to the extent of the land property tax. Last year, to encourage residents of our industrial park to implement some other projects, we included the industrial park into the territory of special economic zone. This method is used in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. Nowadays, we examine the possibility, since the territory is 90% filled up by the residents. We look at the possibility of extending the territory of Algar economic zone. I'll give a comment regarding the preferential treatment. The tax code of the Russian Federation also gave such an opportunity to the constituent members of the Russian Federation, where the regional legislation will provide preferential treatments for the residents of industrial parks. We will not go into the detail of this matter. It is more of interest to us as managing companies than to our investors. Yes, but to convince the Ministry of Finance, whether at the federal level or at the regional level, to offer some preferential tax treatment is very difficult. Yes, regulatory treatment may be different in different locations. When we work abroad, and we face it in some advanced countries, as there is such a new notion, green agenda, that is in line with SDG principles. I give the floor to Anna. She's going to discuss the advantages that are given to investment products with an SEG component. A representative Novicom Bank, a subsidiary of Rostex state-owned corporation. For over 10 years, we've been working with high-tech industries. And I would like to call your attention to an important consideration, which is very important for development of long-term strategic cooperation with OIC countries. When you work in the advanced industries, including in industrial parks and free economic zones, you should take into account sustainability development factors, the so-called SEG. Russia has approved the strategy for social development with low carbon gas, greenhouse gas footprint. And quite recently, there is a new national goal of Russia, that is environmental well-being. And Russian companies are thinking of creating their own codes of vendors and suppliers. They are more, let's say, attentive to the issue of harmful emissions. Russian companies are taking into account the factor of the so-called carbon taxes in foreign markets. A carbon tax is used not only because an exporter is not a green exporter, but just due to the fact that all suppliers who are involved in the creation of the final product need to produce a certificate of green friendly supplier. And well, the carbon emissions have a bigger impact on international trade now, and we should view this issue jointly. We've started some joint work in this area. There will be a lot of discussions, in particular working groups under BRICS are looking at the creation of unified SEG standards for confirmation of green energy aspects. There is the first road map with the climate agenda, and there is a model system of environmental projects. It is expected that all of it will be taken into account in dealing with OIC countries. Probably there will be some preferential treatment provided in free economic zones and industrial parks. If we look at a standard which was put in place, the Association of Clusters and Technical Parks of Russia, this standard may be applied in dealing with OIC countries. The central bank announced incentivizing regulatory provisions for such projects, and Russian banks will be able to provide preferential financing for such projects. Thank you. Thank you. And Vasily Sergeyevich, I want to give the floor to you. In autumn, at one of the international conferences, you promoted the idea of creating an international alliance of industrial zones. We are following up on that recommendation. 5 countries have already joined as their managing companies to such alliance. And there are active discussions underway. There are other projects in other countries. We're gaining momentum, and I will give the floor to wrap up our discussion. Thank you very much. In my opinion, we are somehow accumulating a critical mass of overseas projects. We can talk more about infrastructure aspects. We should think how we can consider our participation well in industrial parks abroad. Now, the situation is such that we have to carry out some production capacity to foreign industrial banks. We're talking not about physical presence in Russia. We're thinking of a more sophisticated structure. And the regulatory framework should not only describe the reality, but also to comply with reality and to predict the reality. On top of that, it is very nice that indeed, starting from this year, well, to be more precise, starting from 2025, the agenda of our presence in different industrial parks will be united under the umbrella of a federal project. We're studying to create special tools for that. There will be a program. There is a strategy for development of foreign economic activities, and there will be relevant regulations to support it. The examples that I have heard today, the proposals that were made today, all are very interesting, and they testify to the fact that we have once again, as I said, accumulated a critical mass where Russia may even provide their own solutions for the foreign market, and we can more actively use points of foreign presence in the interests of Russia's economy. That is the main conclusion I can draw. Thank you very much. Given that we're pressed for time, if participants may ask questions, you can ask such questions individually from our experts and speakers. I thank you for joining us, and thanks to the speakers for their contributions. Thank you.